September 8th, 2015 Caroline County Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Board members present, Mr. Floyd Thomas, representing the Mattapanai District, Mr. Jeff Black, representing the Western Caroline District, Mr. Reggie Underwood, representing the Reedy Church District, Mr. Wayne Akers, representing the Madison District, Mr. Jeff Seeley, representing the Bowling Green District, and I'm Calvin Taylor, and I represent the Port Royal District. At this time, we would ask you to stand if you're able for the invocation, and I would ask Mr. Black if you would lead us.
Please rise. Dear God, as we come before you tonight, we ask for your knowledge and strength to help us to do what is right for Caroline County. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, are there any amendments to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, no amendments to the agenda tonight.
Okay. All right, if there are no amendments to the agenda, then the agenda will stand approved as presented, and we will go to opening board comments. Mr. Thomas, do you have any at this time?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have a few brief comments. At our last meeting, we all mentioned the fact that we participated in National Night Out, and I neglected to mention that I too participated in the National Night Out at Belmont. Had a very good turnout. And a couple of other things. I was at Mr. Underwood's meeting last week at the State Fair, and I'm sure he's going to discuss a little more about that. But the State Fair official was there, and we were talking about possibly expanding the summer jobs program to include the State Fair. I don't know if she mentioned that to you, but I was sitting right behind her. She mentioned that to me. So, Mr. Cully, I'm going to ask you if you can follow up on that. Because it appeared in the discussion that they would sponsor some students to work down there, which I think would be a good approach. And the last one, I had it busy last week. At the reception for Dr. Parker, who's here, I ran into Colonel Myers from Fort A.P. Hill, and Colonel Myers was very excited about the possibility of expanding natural gas to A.P. Hill. As most of the county knows, we were successful in expanding it from 207 over to Milford, which goes by the high school and middle school. He was asking if there was anything the county could do to help that. We got a state grant. I'm sure to go to the Hill has probably got to be a federal grant or something like that. He said he mentioned it to Congressman Whitman, but I think if there's anything we could do to help, I think that would be a great idea, because that may help us while we get gas to them. They may help us get water to us. So it might be a win-win. I don't know if you want to handle that, Mr. Cully, or you want to let Mr. Wilson handle that, or Mr. Schiebel.
We've all been sort of working on that. I attended a meeting with the board officials in Congressman Whitman's office
back in
8 months, April. And so Mr. Wilson's sort of been on that, and we will continue to work on that. They've got to kind of give us some numbers for the feds to commit the money. They look at the return on investment on how much they're going to save over a short period of time, and the line's pretty expensive. So we're working on it.
Well, he said he'd save $3 million a year. So I don't know if the line gets less blurry if you're saving that much a year, or
that sounds higher than the number
like
I
that.
remember, but anyway, we'll continue to work on that.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I have. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Black, do you have any?
Yeah, I just have one. Mr. Thomas kind of briefly mentioned it. There was a reception last week for the new superintendent, Dr. Parker. Thought that went very, very well as far as, and I kind of look forward to working with Dr. Parker in the schools. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Underwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, we held a community and policing meeting, and members of the state police were there. Caroline County Sheriff was there. Chief Loftus was there to talk about how we can build relationships within the Reedy Church District with our law enforcement. I think the meeting was very positive. We will be having this town hall meeting probably once every 2 or 3 months. looking across the country, if we can build relationships, the less likelihood of things happening to have negative impact on our county can be, some of those things can be prevented. So we want to be proactive, talk about how community policing works and what the community can do in order to be a good partner with state, local police as well as our EMS. Second, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Joliff, the Vice President of the State Fair, you know, we had some differences about the State Fair, but I can tell you she's really stepped up to the plate and has really become part of the community there. And as I told her, we look forward to working with her. I think we can make that State Fair truly one of the greatest events in the state of Virginia. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Akers, we have...
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Dr. Parker, it's a pleasure having you in Madison District and certainly in Caroline County. And I look forward to working with you. And if I can help you in any way, just give me a buzz. You have my home phone numbers as well. Secondly, Mr. Taylor, and I'll let you go into greater detail as chairman, but you and I met on the 31st of August with Congressman Rob Whitman, toured a couple of places in Caroline, and it was a real good meeting. We had concerns about, in Ladysmith, the post office, and he was going to make some inquiries about that and try to help us there, and you had some issues as well. But it was good meeting with Congressman Whitman, and was glad to have him in Caroline County and to see some of the things that we're doing in Caroline County. Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Sealy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Thomas, a follow-up to the natural gas line. We had a meeting last spring with the town, Congressman Whitman, and I had Mr. Cully attend because I was away on business at that point in time. But we have numbers for what we believe the cost would be. We actually needed appropriations from the Senate to actually make that happen. So AP Hill is working up the numbers along with Columbia Gas in preparation not for this year's budget, for next year's budget, to see if we can get the numbers to line up with Columbia, what they're willing to take for what it would cost us to bring that line all the way around. Basically, we have one landowner involved coming across from Milford to 301 and then up 301 in the easement. So it's being worked on. We know we have rough numbers, and they're being worked on for what the final numbers would be that we'd have to get for an appropriation.
All right, I'm not sure, but that it seemed like Colonel Myers did say $3 million was his number. So if you can work on the congressional side, I think that I can work on the Senate side because we know those folks and maybe we can help us. It's really a benefit for the federal government, not necessarily county, but it would help us later on when we start talking about water and what we could do for them.
Right, but it is something in the works that we've actually planned, and everybody's supposed to be getting better numbers this fall for what that number would be to actually bring, because the number was really, really high initially from Columbia Gas, and everybody looked at it and said, you know, that's a number that we can't get to. So that is all supposed to be being worked out as this summer. So hopefully this fall we'll have something.
I'll ask Senator Kane when I see him next week.
Okay.
Is that all?
And one other, I attended Unity in the Community at down in Dawn 2 weeks ago, and I will tell you there were 8 different churches and a number of organizations there. And again, I think what needs to happen is everybody needs to learn about everybody else so that we can all learn to get along and move forward as a county. So I will say that that was a great event, and I'd just like to applaud the folks that actually put it together. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sealy. You know, one of the disadvantages of being chairman is they take all the good comments, and so by the time it gets to the chairman, all the good comments are gone. So what I have to do is kind of elaborate on some of the ones that were already taken. Being the first one, the meeting with Rob Whitman. As Mr. Akers had stated, we did meet with him on last week, and we talked about some very important things. I think he is working diligently to try and support some of the concerns that we have in Caroline. One of the things that we talked about was perhaps finding an area that would be good for a hub zone. We know that a hub zone is advantageous to a local community, and Caroline being in the unique position as it is, we believe that certainly if Spotsylvania has an area that could be a hub zone, it's kind of hard to believe that Caroline would not. So we talked about that, and Congressman Whitman is, I think, in line with that and trying to see what we can do to make that happen. We also talked about AP Hill and the payment in lieu of taxes, and how AP Hill, 77,000 acres or 75,000 acres not being able to be taxed is a cost to Caroline. And because we don't have the hotels and some of the other things that many of the military installations have, we don't get the benefit. So we talked about that and seeing what we could do to try and get some type of assistance through maybe some other source, since we have a situation that's certainly unique. In addition to that, we opened a new CVS very recently, and we were there for that. And so Caroline County is growing. There are things happening. There are things in the works, and I think I think we have a bright future ahead. And so I would certainly like to again thank all the board for our working together to try and provide the kind of leadership that brings these businesses and industries into the county, because they support all of our needs. Having said that, I will move on to the presentation of reports. Under our first agenda item, we have the recognition of the clerk of Caroline County, Mr. Ray Campbell. Mr. Campbell has chosen not to run for office, and so we ask if you, I beg your pardon? Yeah, he chose retirement, and I certainly understand that, Mr. Campbell. But we thank you for what you have done, and we thank you for the positive impact that you've had on Caroline. And certainly, we hope that your retirement will be enjoyable. I can assure you, mine is very enjoyable. As I read this, you may come forward, Mr. Campbell. This is a resolution commending Ray S. Campbell, Jr. for his service to Caroline County. Whereas Ray S. Campbell, Jr. will officially leave office as clerk of court on September 11th, 2015, after almost 24 years of distinguished service to the citizens of Caroline County. And whereas Mr. Campbell has been instrumental in building a modern, well-run clerk's office dedicated to providing exceptional service to all citizens and visitors. And whereas during his tenure as the clerk of the court, Mr. Campbell has displayed leadership, professionalism, and integrity, and performed his duties admirably. And whereas the Board of Supervisors takes pleasure in recognizing the achievements of Mr. Campbell and expressing its sincere gratitude for the invaluable contributions he has made to his native county. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Caroline County Board of Supervisors hereby commends Mr. Campbell for his exceptional service as clerk of the Circuit Court of Caroline County and extends its very best wishes to him for a happy retirement. This is adopted the 8th day of September 2015, and is signed by the clerk of the board, Mr. Charles Cully, and the chairman of the board, Calvin B. Taylor. If you would just come around here, Mr. Campbell, the board would like to just shake hands with you and offer personal congratulations. Again, Mr. Campbell, again, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors of Caroline County, we'd like to thank you for all that you've done and wish you a sincere, happy retirement. Good luck. I'm sure you'll do well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm highly honored and deeply humbled by this commendation. And I want to personally thank each and every one of you for all the help you've given me in my office over these many years. And I also want to give a commendation to your staff. These are the people that make you look good, and I know you know that, just like my staff makes me look good. And I can't mention everybody, but I do want to give a particular shout out to Mike Allen and Jonathan and Tim, because last night at 9 o'clock, we were dealing with the water leak in my office. I called Mike Allen. He was in Nag's Head. He got a hold of Jonathan. Jonathan came, met me up there. We got a hold of Tim. We got that leak under control. We're able to open up in only losing a half a day. And I think that's very commendable service to the citizens of Caroline County. And your people made it happen. I thank you for that.
The rest of the board would like to shake hands with you. If we could just come and get a picture of the board. Mr. Campbell, we want to just take a picture with you and the board.
All guys in the back.
Thank you. Okay, again, thank you very much, Mr. Campbell. We very much appreciate your contribution. We also plan to recognize Mrs. Kay Whitman. She is in the office of the clerk's office as well, but Ms. Whitmer could not be here tonight, so we're going to see to it that she gets her recognition, her plaque and so forth, but would just like to say that the board recognizes the accomplishments that she has made as well, and regret the fact that she could not be here such that we could present it to her in person. But again, the board is appreciative for her contributions as well. At this time, we'll move on to the presentation of the National Association of Counties and the Virginia Association of Counties. We have the executive director, Mr. Jim Campbell, with us tonight, and I will turn it over to you, Mr. Campbell. If you want to come up here, you're more than welcome to do that. However you feel comfortable in doing what's needed, do whatever you have to do.
Thank you,
Good to
Mr.
have
Chairman. I'll start down here, and maybe we'll come up for a photo op shortly.
Okay.
There. But I am Jim Campbell. I'm the executive director of the Virginia Association of Counties, also known as VACO. And it's my pleasure to be before the board tonight to present a very special award to Caroline County. VACO has had a recognition program of achievement awards for about 10 years now. And rest assured, it's a competitive process. We have a panel of judges, of former county officials, sit down and review all of the entries, and they review them on 3 basic criteria. One, is it an innovative solution to a problem or a project that your county has been facing? Number 2, Do you utilize some partnerships with other agencies, other governments, other nonprofits, or this type of thing, so you're maximizing the resources that the county has? And number three, is it a transferable type of project that other communities can really look to? This year we had about 100 entries, and I'm pleased to say that the Caroline County project was among the very best of those entries. It's really something to be proud of. You know, your project, which is known as the Caroline County Recovery Program, certainly was an innovative concept that you began actually 5 or 6 years ago, and it has grown successfully ever since then. You certainly partnered with the McShin Foundation to get the thing rolling, and the county has put some modest money into it as well, but continues to go very well with your partnership on that type of thing. And there's just no doubt that it is transferable. And probably the most important part, the program is saving Caroline County tens of thousands of dollars, if not $100,000 or more. So it's something that is very, very important for you to take a look at. But let's talk about the Caroline County Recovery Program for a moment. What is it? It's an alternative to individuals who have been convicted of a violation, a drug violation in most cases. Instead of going to jail, the courts have assigned them to your Caroline County Recovery Program. Let's talk about just the whole program right now. You know, we are experiencing nationally a growing opiate addiction epidemic. And it's growing. It's growing nationally, it's growing in the state, it's growing right here in your own community. But how are we treating that? What are we doing with that? You know, addiction, whether it's an alcohol addiction or a drug addiction, opiate addiction, or whatever it is actually a disease. A disease, a mental health disease, a disease of the mind. It's not a crime. It's not a crime. You know, cancer is a disease, and we treat it. We don't put people in jail with cancer. Likewise, diabetes is a disease. We treat it. We don't call it a crime and put people in jail. So why are we treating addiction, a disease, a mental health disease, as a crime and putting people in jail? Now, yes, there are some ancillary activities that sometimes people get caught about, and they need to serve a little bit of a punishment on those processes, whether it be shoplifting or whatever it might be. But we really ought to attack the disease itself, the addiction, as a mental health disease. And I have to commend your Commonwealth's Attorney, Tony Spencer, and the courts here in Caroline County for recognizing this for what it is. They have assigned a number of folks on the last 5 or 6 years to the Caroline County Recovery Program instead of assigning them to jail. And what does this do? This provides them with an opportunity for treatment for their disease. It also provides a supportive community where they can work together, recognizing that the disease is out there. Let's take care of the disease and see if we can solve this problem. And finally, and I'm going to have to pull my glasses out because I can't read my notes anymore. It allows people, this is the important part, it allows people to continue to be working at their job, to be productive citizens of the community, supporting themselves and their families. So it's a win-win-win situation through the your community program. And it has saved Caroline County tens of thousands of dollars or more. You know, I was looking at a study just recently where you might be budgeting about $2 million a year for incarceration in the Pamunkey Regional Jail there. That's a lot of dollars. This program that has been successful for the last 5 or 6 years can treat an individual or can help an individual for about $3,000 a year. That's compared to incarceration at the Pamunkey Jail for about $25,000 a year. That's a heck of a savings that the county can experience. Now, mind you, the sheriff may not be as excited about it as you know, I am, because, you know, he likes to get more deputies to go for the jail, likes to generate his budget based on the number of folks that he puts in jail. But your Commonwealth's attorney, Tony Spencer, and the judges have been very, very good at recognizing this particular issue. All that said, I'm here to present not one, but 2 awards. Certainly, the Virginia Association of Counties, VACO, has recognized your program as one of the very best of about 100 submitted to the state, to our organization this year. But also, you are recognized by the National Association of Counties, NACO, one of the best in the entire country. You know, that's something to be very, very proud of. And I think that Caroline County needs to take, I think the media needs to take careful attention of this and play it up. You need to, it's a very newsworthy type of program. It should be promoted. It should be supported, hopefully supported by the county, sometimes in a financial way, even if it can be a modest way. And above all, it should be shared with other communities as a successful program for treating a disease, not a crime. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to come up and present a couple of awards to you, sir.
Yes, sir.
And maybe we can have a picture or two taken. And by the way, I think most of you recognize this, these crows on the front row here that might be part of the McShin program and your recovery program. They're to be commended for the work that they have been doing the last 5 or 6 years.
While Mr. Campbell is coming, on behalf of the board, we'd just like to say thank you to the persons involved in the CHINS program, and also to Mr. Spencer and to all of those persons in the court system who have worked to try and give these persons a second chance. We realize that it costs a lot more to house people in penal institutions than it does to try to find a way to address the addiction problem. So having said that, on behalf of the board, I would say thank you, Mr. Campbell, and I would invite those persons who are a part of the program, if you would like to come up and take a picture, you're more than welcome to do that. We appreciate what you've done, and this program, there would be no picture without these persons who have helped to make this program a success.
Glad to see the freelance star is going to try to take a picture. That's good. We've got 2 of them.
And it says the Virginia Association of Counties 2015 Achievement Award for an innovative county program presented to Caroline County. Caroline County Recovery Community Program, Criminal Justice and Public Safety, November 8th, 2015, and it's signed by Penny A. Gross, President, and James D. Campbell, Executive Director for VACO. And this one is the 2015 Achievement Award winner. That some achieve great success is proof to all that others can achieve it as well, stated by Abraham Lincoln. The National Association of Counties is proud to award Caroline County a 2015 Achievement Award for its program titled Caroline County Recovery Community Program, and it's signed by Matthew Chase, the NACO Executive Director, and Ricky Hakoma, the NACO President. Thank you very much.
Mr. Taylor, if I could get you and sir, if you could come in the center of these gentlemen right here.
Okay, that takes us to the next presentation report from Caroline County Public Schools. Again, we would certainly like to take this opportunity on behalf of the board to again welcome Dr. Parker to the county as our new superintendent. We appreciate this opportunity to work with you, and we know that we're going to enjoy a long period of success and a healthy relationship. It's just good to have you. So, having said that, I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Parker.
Thank you, Chairman Taylor, Vice Chairman Silly, and members of the board. On behalf of the 600-plus employee plus students at Caroline County Public Schools, I'd like to bring greetings this evening on their behalf. And on a personal note, I'd also like to thank the board. I've met most of you individually, or you've attended the superintendent's reception last week, and I just want to say thank you for your time and making the time to meet me personally and greet me and welcome me to Caroline County. My purpose is very simple tonight, to bring an update on the construction projects at Madison Elementary and Caroline High School. I'll do that, and then I'll offer an opportunity for questions if you have some. In July of this year, the bid for renovations of Madison Elementary was awarded to Haley Construction. As of today, permits for building and land disturbance have been submitted and approved. The contractor has begun mobilization to include the necessary equipment, the construction trailer. They're on site, and several meetings have been held between the contractor, school personnel, and the division architect. We anticipate that work will begin on the planned location of the bus loop this week. They're already starting to make plan designs on completing the bus loop first to allow the other bus loop to be torn up. The projected completion date for the Madison renovation is scheduled for August of 2016, prior to the start of school next year. I'm also pleased to report that as of today, the site work has begun on Caroline High School. In July of this year, the bid for the renovation of Caroline High School was awarded to Southwood Builders. Since that time, several meetings have been held. Permits for building and land disturbance have been submitted and approved. The work has begun in the front proposed parking area of the school site. So as of today, they're digging everything up. Ground has been disturbed, and alternative parking has been provided to students and staff as a result of that work. The anticipated completion date for this renovation is August of 2017. It is anticipated that work on the roof will begin this month. Materials have been ordered, and the work on the roof will begin as soon as those materials arrive. It is important to note that special inspections for both projects are being conducted by Engineering Consulting Services. Additionally, the clerk of the works, Mr. Snyder, has been present at all meetings on both sites. In closing, we are optimistic that both projects will be completed within budget and within the anticipated duration outlined in the original plans for the work. Joining me this evening is Mr. Honan, our Supervisor of Maintenance for Caroline County Public Schools, and we are prepared to answer any questions that the board may have regarding the construction projects.
Okay. Do board members have questions at this time? Mr. Thomas?
Just one briefly. Dr. Parker, you said that land disturbances was going on, so I take it we got all the DEQ permits that we were waiting for some time?
I think those are the permits in question, yes, sir.
Okay. That was the one thing we'd been delayed quite a bit because of that and some other things. Thank you.
Other board members have questions? If not, thank you very much, Dr. Parker. We certainly appreciate your report. I think I've mentioned to you that we do 2-on-2 meetings, and we will be contacting your office, and hopefully we can get one scheduled where we can talk, directly about other issues and concerns and begin to address them as needed. So again, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Oh, I'm sorry.
I just have one question.
Okay, Mr. Akins.
The bid prices, what do they come in at?
You have exacts? I can give.
The Madison project came in at $4,093,000.
$339 or $329. High school project, $17 million. How much? $17,643,101.
Do those include the architect's fees?
No, that's not. That's not good enough.
That's a bid.
That's 21. Can I ask what the architect's fee was? I think you know that already.
It was on the order of, I know, for the high school, it was like $1,200,000, and Madison, $285,000.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find it exactly.
It was like in the one. I thought it was a little higher than that before, but I mean that's fine. If it was in the 1.5 range, you can, I guess, give that number to Mr. Cully.
We can.
So 21 and 2 were at 23.
Plus the track has been done.
But that
That's
that
not out
wasn't.
of the
That's
17.
not in that number.
That was
Right.
another $400,000 or $500,000.
Track was $349,000.
349.
So we're under the 25 million
Yes, sir.
with a minor contingency plan, I'm
both
sure,
projects.
in the
Both projects.
budget. Not 10%, right?
Thank you very much. We again appreciate your time and efforts, and we will be communicating soon.
Sure,
Thank
and
you.
I'll be happy to provide that, when we do meet, I'll be happy to provide that figure for the OWPR.
Okay,
That's not a
thank you very
problem.
much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that takes us to an update on public safety radio system project. Mark Garnett, Fire EMS Deputy Chief.
So good evening, gentlemen. It's nice to be here. It's been some good news early, and hopefully I can share some good news with you tonight, provide you with an update. On behalf of our radio team that's been meeting, and Mr. Cully asked me to come and provide you with a briefing on where we are right now. As you know, we have had this project for some time now. We ran into a number of unexpected delays in acquiring tower leases. And the good news that we come to tonight is at the end of July, we received our last site lease, and work began a couple days later. We had lined things up, and we have finished our final site with equipment of installations. So that is our 6th site. And what that did is that allowed us now to finally be able to firm up the end of project schedule, which is something that we were anxious to do with that. In addition to those 6 sites, obviously the microwave dishes, if you've noticed those on the town of Bowling Green's water tower, as well as at the courthouse complex are in. So again, we're pleased with that construction. Our dispatch center equipment has obviously been in and will be installed at the end of this month, which we're very excited about. And we had run into some delays with the Historic Preservation Office out of Richmond and our proposal to place our mutual aid antennas on the back side of the courthouse. And we were able to come to an agreement with that department as well that is appeasing to them, and is actually it's a good agreement. Cosmetically, it's very appealing to the beauty of that facility, and has a very, very low visual impact from the front of the building, which the town was pleased with as well. And we're anticipating that when Judge Kelly gets a moment to review that she'll not have objections, and we'll move forward with that. So we've been actively developing our fleet map, which is how we lay out our talk groups and channels, and we anticipate having that wrapped up, and programming of the radio equipment for subscribers in the field can begin in mid to late October. And once that's done, Motorola's contractor will begin doing their installation of mobile equipment at once. Our coverage testing has been an area of concern with us, and that's slightly different than cutover. Coverage testing is where we go out and test the performance of the system to see if it meets our contract percentages that we were indicated. Cutover is actually when we flip the switch and start using the system. But our cutover called for testing to be when leaves are on the trees. And that's been a very driving force with us, because if we waited into November, December when the leaves were off the trees, that we'd have to delay coverage. But right now, we are scheduled to begin that testing October the 12th. We had expressed some concerns last week after a briefing that Mr. Parton may have provided you, and Motorola has agreed to double the number of engineers that they're sending in for coverage testing, which will shave off some time off of that. We have to test 3,481 grid squares, so it is a large county, but we believe that we will be able to come in before the leaves drop off the trees, so we're pleased with that. Our training obviously has been set, those dates. Our 911 Center is bringing on some new CAD technologies, so we work closely with them to make sure that we have a training schedule that will work around that new implementation and allow the employees the time they need to master those skills so there's absolutely no risk to public safety. And we believe we have done that. And that brings us down to our good news of our cutover. Our cutover is scheduled to be completed by December 9th, and that is dependent on how fast our mobile installations take place. If the contractor can get our fleet